everybody, it's Miss Marie, and today we are going to be painting along a narwhal. This is a kit that's available at the library. Hopefully you signed up and picked up one. Otherwise, it's very easy to do without a kit too. It's a very simple project. The kit does have the narwhal shape outlined for you. And so follow along with me. Make sure you have on some clothes that you can get dirty, or I'm wearing an apron or smock, something like that. Make sure you have some newspaper to put down so you don't get your workspace dirty, and let's paint together a narwhal, a unicorn of the sea. Okay, so in your kit you should have received a canvas that has the narwhal already sketched on it. Some paints. We have gray, bronze, turquoise, white, black, and dark blue. You should have also received a sponge tip thing here to put the paint on. Mine's already dirty. You probably got a clean one. And a paintbrush. All right. You're going to also need paper to cover your surface, some water, a paint, something to mix your paint on. I use a paper plate, and a paper towel to wipe off your paintbrush when you're in between colors. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is I'm going to use the turquoise paint and my brush, and I'm gonna wet it a little bit just to make it easier to spread this on. And I'm gonna go all around the shape of the narwhal with this turquoise blue. It doesn't have to be perfect, but pretty close to where the lines are that define the narwhal. You don't have to keep wetting your brush. If it's wet enough, that's good. You need to go on easily, but not watercolor. So I've gone all the way around my narwhal with the turquoise. I'm going to now get some of this turquoise onto my paint palette, so I'm going to mix it with just my paper plate. And then I'm going to add a whole bunch of whites. But I'm going to use something else to get the white out so I don't get the blue into the white. So I want to keep the white clean and white still because we're going to need it later for bubbles. So I'm just going to use the tip of this and just scoop out some white onto there. That's fine. And then we can always rinse it off later. Okay. You can see I'm getting some on my hands. It's totally fine. All right. Wipe this up because I don't keep it for later. Okay, so now I've got the white and the blue on my paper plate to mix it. And I'm going to come in and add some of this white to make a lighter turquoise. So I'm gonna have a lighter turquoise, the regular turquoise, and the white. And I'm gonna come up to the top and add the lightest part. And I'm gonna do it in sort of a swirling circular or half circle motion. And I'm gonna fill in up here so that it's lighter up here. You can add even more white. The top part of the ocean is the lightest because that is where the sun is coming in. So it looks very bright. And then as we get closer to the narwhal, which is, you know, under the water for quite a ways, we're gonna get darker and darker. And you can see that any of the paint that was still wet is gonna get blended in too. So as we get closer to the narwhal, we're gonna let it get darker. So we'll use less and less white. I still want a little bit more turquoise in here, because otherwise it looks too white. Let's see, how's that? Yes, good. Now more turquoise as we're getting closer to the narwhal. But we're still blending it in. See, we're blending with this sort of circular swooping motion, blending it so that it's not, you know, a very sudden change in the color. Blending the colors so that it's subtle. Subtle means, you know, not too obvious that we're changing colors here. We're just sort of making these nice swooping motions and blending the colors. And see, I'm letting it get darker, less white. I can even go with a little more turquoise as we get closer to the narwhal. So I'm going to stop right about there, and I'm going to take out some of my darker blue, this one here. I'm going to put that on my palette. And I'm going to maybe have to use this again to scoop out some of this darker blue, because I don't want to get it all on my paintbrush yet. Now I'm just going to go back before I get into the dark blue. I'm just going to make sure I filled in this top part enough. I'm making those like swirly lines that I think look so pretty and oceany. Okay, so now I'm going to take some of this darker blue, and it's going to go underneath because it's darker down there. See how we're getting lighter to darker because it's less sun getting down there. So we're going to add this darker blue all the way at the bottom. And you can always paint the sides of your canvas too with the paint that you're using. Maybe the sides and the bottom, just so that it's not too sloppy on the end. Yeah, there we go. Okay, hero. And so I'm going to keep doing this. I'm not going to blend yet. Let's go all the way across and get as much of this blue on there as we can before we start to blend it into that turquoise. Let's get this to be as dark as we can to show you the depths of the ocean, and then we can start blending with that same swirly motion. You see how we're getting some of this turquoise into the dark blue and some of the dark blue into the turquoise. Make sure it's plenty dark enough.
Turquoise is where I'm adding.
Okay, now we're going to clean our paintbrush and go back into the light colors, the turquoise and the white. Try to get as much of that dark off as we can, because we're going to come back in and mix those white and turquoise together to make us sort of a very light color, similar to what we have here. And maybe a little bit more white down here. And we're gonna just make little like very light ocean lines. Very light. now that it's all dry, I went and I got a hair dryer. You can ask your grown-up if you can use a hair dryer on a cool setting, on low cool, or else just let it air dry. Take a break, go outside, do what you need to do, and come back, and we'll finish up here. I'm going to use the gray to paint the narwhal. I'm going to leave the eye and the horn and the belly white for now. And I'm going to use this gray. It's a very light gray, and I'm going to paint the narwhal gray except for those parts. I'm going to make sure I cover up that line where the tracing was done. I'm going to go back in now with a little bit, while it's still wet, a little bit of white on my brush. If you had some white left from before, that's great. Do not use it if it's got blue in it, only if it's pure white, because we don't want to get blue onto the narwhal. And we're going to add in some shading at the top here. It's already pretty light, so we don't need to go too much lighter. And if you need more white, scoop out a little bit onto your palette and use that. Using, again, like a clean brush or something like this to scoop it out. You don't want to get anything in there. Good thing I have this paper down. All right, so I'm gonna get some white on my brush, and I'm gonna add some shading up here. Already pretty light, so I'm gonna just do some gentle white. Too with some white, because we're gonna have to add some black to it later. So for now, I'm just going in. If you need to, you can use the other part of your brush, like the tip of your brush, if that helps you have better control, and you can get that in there as well. Okay, so now I'm gonna let him dry a little bit, and while the body is drying, I'm gonna show you how to make some seaweed on the bottom of the ocean. I'm going to take some of this darker blue that I have left from before. You can get some fresh from your pot. And now this should all be dry down here. And just sort of like little squiggles up like this. I need to go a little darker. And then it come into because you've already let this dry, it should show up. If it's not showing up enough that you like it, you can mix a little black. Let's try that. Let's try a little black with the blue. See if that'll darken it up a little bit. Yep, that did it. A little black in there. When you're dry, we're gonna come and open up the bronze, which is this sort of, I guess it looks almost like a gold color. You shouldn't have too much of it in there. It's probably the least amount of paint you have. And we're gonna put some of that on our brush, mix it up a little bit, separate it a little bit, and we're gonna do the horn in that color. White paint ready, we're going to add some nice little, I don't know, spots to our our narwhal's back. And they're going to be like, I don't know, almost like cow spots. Because they are spotted. Helps to camouflage them. I actually might use, I think I'm gonna use the tip. I feel a little more comfortable with that to make bubbles all under the water. And I'm going to make some bubbles down at the bottom. Some bubbles coming up, and you can definitely use just the tip of your paintbrush for that. Just going to do some like little, this is really fun and really easy to do, like little tiny bubbles. And you're just coming up from the bottom. Maybe when the narwhal moved, they disturbed something that had some air trapped underneath it or something. So I'm just gonna make some fun bubbles. Oh yeah, that's fun. I like doing those. All right. Cleaning off my brush, letting things dry a little bit more. Maybe do a little second coat on this horn. Let's see. To let that dry a little bit, and I'm gonna get some black on the tip of my brush, which I also cleaned. I'm gonna kind of dot my little eye there. Oh yeah, that looks looking good. Now when I try to outline the narwhal's mouth, so again, I'm gonna use that tip because I feel much more in control with that than with the rest of the paintbrush. And give my narwhal a nice little smile. And oh, I'm gonna let that dry a little bit more. Okay, so I let my narwhal's tusk horn dry. I'm going to use some black paint on the tip of my paintbrush, and I'm going to outline very carefully just where at the top of the nose there, where it's coming out. And now I'm gonna draw like little sort of like half lines and not too dark. Just gonna go like almost like a half circle from side. You could do straight too if you want. I'm doing it sort of curvy. You can do it straight. These are just gonna be the lines on the tusk. Again, this is your painting, so you do it how you want to do it. And the good news is, if you don't like it, you can come back and switch it. You can always go over it with some other kind of paint and fix it up. All right, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I think this is done. And there you have a narwhal, the unicorn of the sea, one of my favorite sea creatures for this summer, for our Oceans of Possibilities summer reading. And I hope to see you at the library soon. Enjoy making your narwhal. Please send me pictures of how it comes out, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.